However you want to characterize it, a defensive struggle, an ugly win. A win is win for the San Francisco 49ers against division rival Arizona Cardinals, 16-15. Now, alone atop the NFC West are those 49ers after 3 weeks, and we'll get into all of the details right now on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us. And it's all worth it when you get a big post-game dub podcast as we have on this Rapid React edition of Locked On 49ers. So thanks for stopping in. Make sure you are subbed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And Croc, I think there's plenty of highlights in this game for what was mostly an ugly game, with being the only game in the NFL this season where there were no touchdowns scored in the first 3 quarters of the game. And it seemed like nobody wanted to get the ball moving down the football field. I think you got to credit both defenses more on that. But we've got to start at the end on this one, which was after all the 49ers have gone through with the kicking game the last few years, it was the new kicker, Eddy Piniero, also known as Eddy Piniero, who cashed in on this one, a 35-yarder, no doubter, straight through the uprights after a nice little drive from McCorkle to put the 49ers in position with no time left. 16-15. Is that a scoreagami? I can't remember a 16-15 final. Of course, a safety, almost a second safety in this game. It was ugly, but again, Croc, a win is a win, and I think it's really important that good teams know how to win win ugly, right? It's a skill.
Man, shout out to Eddy Piniero. And I think him coming in and not missing a field goal since the 49ers signed him. Now, he did miss the extra point, the PAT. All right, but no missed field goals. That's why you don't draft guys in the 3rd round. You don't need to do that. All right, you go and you get a free agent like this and you see how he does. And if he starts missing, you cut him and you pick up another guy who potentially can fill in and kick field goals for you. So, I would say, man, I'm extremely elated, excited about that win. It was an ugly win, but the 49ers did whatever they had to do to pull out a victory. And there was a moment, I think I even cursed Mac Jones. I actually called him McCorkle. I said, God damn it, McCorkle, right through the interception. But he did a really good job of rebounding. The 49ers, first of all, 49ers defense did a really good job of getting the stop. They rebounded, and they went down the field to kick a field goal and win the game. So you got a little bit of everything there, but there was definitely some really – I don't think the final score tells the full story on how I felt the 49ers looked in this game. I thought there were a lot of really good things, and I thought guys really stepped up. But for whatever reason, it was a super low-scoring game.
I like what Scott says in the chat, a gritty win. I think that's better than an ugly win. It was a gritty win for the 49ers. Yeah, when you start using the player's middle name, or actually it's not his middle name, it's just his God-given name is McCorkle, and then called Mac, right? But it's like when you start calling your children by their middle name when they're in trouble and you're sending them to their room. That's the way I felt as well, Croc, after that interception late in the game. And I think probably the number one thing, obviously, bunch of credit, game ball immediately to the game winner, field goal for Eddy Piniero. Got to give him a game ball when you kick the game winner. The San Francisco 49ers defense, and there's probably numerous players. I think, most of all, I would put Fred Warner and probably Mykel Williams making a lot of plays, the rookie. I want to talk more about the rookies as well, but just the 49ers defense as a whole, Robert Saleh get a game ball in this one because they kept keeping the 49ers close. They gave the 49ers the ball back immediately after the Mac Jones interception. After the safety, they got the 49ers ball back again so they could go down the field, and they didn't let the Arizona Cardinals ice that game. Niners were able to go back down the field and kick the game-winning field goal. So in a game like that, a gritty win, an ugly win, however you want to characterize it, the defense always deserves a lot of credit there for making things extremely difficult on the Arizona Cardinals offense. Only 159 yards passing for Kyler Murray, even though he dropped back 35 times. It's only a 4.5 yard per attempt average there.
Had some drops that definitely helped the 49ers as well, though. There were a couple. You need some of those sometimes, though, and they worked in the 49ers' favor in this game.
Only 3.8 yards per carry for the Cards and only 3.7 yards per carry for the San Francisco 49ers. We got to talk about that in a second. But as far as the 49ers defense goes against the Arizona Cardinals offense, Croc, you mentioned there was a drop by Marvin Harrison, which was a bad one. Is Marvin Harrison injured, or does he just run like that? He's not that fast for a guy who was like this generational prospect coming out.
They said and I don't know who they is, I guess just social media. All right. But they were saying he was generational. I didn't see anything generational about him coming out of college. This is a guy that refused to test and do any of that. He didn't do combine work. He didn't do pro day work. He didn't do any of that. So you're hiding something. And I'm not saying that's the end all be all. But anytime I see that, it's just kind of a red flag for me, as opposed to a guy like Malik Neighbors who said, man, I'm going to go to these workouts and I'm shine. Marvin Harrison was like, my film says it all. But it doesn't. It doesn't say everything, because you got to know, how your testing aligns with guys that play your position and how that translates to the NFL. And right now, even with some schematic stuff, they've done a really good job scheming him up. In college, he wasn't the quickest, most craftiest route runner, which you don't expect for a guy of his stature. He's a big guy, but good receiver. The generational attack to me was doing a lot of heavy lifting. I felt like even during that time, and there were a lot of people that felt like, I think Malik Neighbors is the better prospect, or Rome Odunze is the better prospect. So that's not to say that he won't be good or anything like that, but I think I don't want to use the word overrated, but he was drafted higher than I would have taken. You
know who was the better prospect? Sticky Ricky Pearsall. With the way the ball sticks to his hands, that's what I'm calling him for now, man, because it's like he's got stickum on his gloves with the way he catches the football. And I've talked about it before with Ricky Pearsall. There's one thing I think you can count on with him. I don't know how he's going to turn out in his career, but his hands are for sure pure, and he can get open. And so phenomenal game for Ricky Pearsall. I'm going to go game ball right out of the gate here in the first segment with the game ball for Ricky Pearsall as well. 8 receptions for 117 yards, outshining by a lot the number 1 receiver drafted in last year's class, and really a performance that the 49ers offense just really, really needed in this one when a lot else wasn't working really for the entire football team, except for Mac Jones to Ricky Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall, I felt like he gave you everything, man. Like, this was the full Adam Thielen experience. A guy who can be crafty at the top of routes, really good hands, maybe won't just be, burning past defenders, but even early on, like, there was a Mac Jones miss on a corner route on the first drive that could have even inflated those numbers even more, right? So this is a guy that was winning in all areas. He won underneath, he won intermediately, and obviously with the catch on the kind of back here on the shoulder. It wasn't the most perfect ball, but it was dropped in the spot where it gave him an opportunity to make a play. And like you said, man, those strong hands, and those showed up time and time again. There was one in the red zone. I felt like he just caught it. Just snagged it. And it's kind of a laser, like kind of a low laser, him going down to get the ball. I was just so impressed with his ability to just figure out a way, right? Again, you won't mistake him for being Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase or one of those guys in space. But he does just enough, and he's a guy that fits what Kyle Shanahan needs him to do, which opens up a whole nother conversation about a guy that they signed in Brandon Ayuk, who I love, but like, did you really have to? When you found a guy who fits what you do and does it, and clearly we're seeing in year 2, I think the biggest thing when you talk about sticky hands, I think the hands for guys when they're rookies, the first thing that you'll see some drops, or maybe they're thinking a lot. So you're thinking, and all of a sudden the ball is on you. Right now, it doesn't look like Ricky Pearsall is thinking at all. He's figuring out ways to create enough space for him to be a valuable option in the passing game. And when they throw the ball his way, he's catching the rock. I definitely enjoyed watching him today over and over and over make timely catches for the 49ers.
Yeah, they missed one over the top early. That wasn't on Ricky Pearsall. Mac kind of forced one to him where that safety was coming down in front of that in-cutting route, and they probably were really sick and tired of seeing the 49ers hit that that in-cutting route in front of them all day long with Ricky Pearsall when Mac threw the interception there. So I think that was more good on the defense and probably a ball that Mac shouldn't throw, not necessarily on anything that Ricky Pearsall was doing there. Interesting in the chat here. Ricky Pearsall is like Torrey Holt. I was trying to think of a comp actually during the game for Ricky Pearsall, and I couldn't really come up with a good one. That one's not terrible. A guy that maybe isn't physically imposing, but is quick, can get open, and just can flat out catch the football, because that's the scouting report on Ricky Pearsall, and he's absolutely been that for the San Francisco 49ers. I want to KP says Pearsall is actually turning into Marvin Harrison Sr. more than Marvin Harrison Jr. is. That too. Definitely that much more that style of player for sure.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., which if they didn't look so much alike, I'd be like, is that his daddy? Yeah. But you look at their faces and it's like, okay, they got the same face. Marvin Harrison, there's some things about that guy. I've heard some stories about Marvin Harrison. A lot of people, he seems like this just very quiet, kind of, shy guy, goes out there, does his job at a high level. He's got another side to him. I've heard some crazy stories about Marvin Harrison Sr.
Okay, well, we'll save those maybe.
Ricky Pearsall is not, we don't want Ricky Pearsall to be like Marvin Harrison. The football version, yes, I agree.
Right.
That other version, you got to start, ask some people if they heard about this guy.
Those stories might have to be for another podcast or maybe an off year.
Nah, I don't think they're for a podcast at
all. Let's talk rookies on the San Francisco 49ers. A number of them showing up today in week 3, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for a unit that really, really needs those young players to develop quickly. And they are so far, and a whole lot more from the week 3 win for the San Francisco 49ers. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. And you might want to play this week's max discount. Patty Mahomes. All you got to do is get more than 0.5 passing yards, or you can go the less than on that. I don't know if that would be the smart play, but it can make checking your scores a little bit more fun, even beyond your San Francisco 49ers, beyond your fantasy football team. So download the Prize Pick app today and use our code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. At Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Man, I've been wearing my Doer jeans. I had to give them a day off today, but I'm not wearing my jeans on game day from Doer. But you know what? I'm wearing my Doer pocket tee. It's one of the most comfortable tees I own. And it was my game day shirt today. And whether it's work or play, you can feel phenomenal and look phenomenal in your Doer outfit, Doer jeans. I've got the performance denim, and I went to the new store in Hayes Valley in San Francisco, and I got fitted with the no sweatpants. And I mean, it's unbelievable how comfortable these jeans are at Doer, because they have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They feel stretchy, but don't look stretchy. Antibacterial, tons of technology to help regulate your body temperature, wicks out moisture, so it keeps you cool and comfortable as the temperatures change. And so they are great for any season, which is imperative for those San Francisco days that can be warm and nights to get cool when the wind starts to kick up. And really, it's like combining classic jeans wear style at Doer with the comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. So go check them out. Brand new store in San Francisco, Hayes Valley, 567 Hayes Street. Phenomenal staff, super helpful. They get you fitted up, and mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store for 15% off your first order, or check them out online, shopdoer.com. That's Doer, D-U-E-R. Shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off online. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. How about those rookies, Croc? One of my favorite moments so far this season was in the second half of that game, watching CJ West and Alfred Collins and Mykel Williams all on the field at the same time, and without Nick Bosa on the football field. More on his injury in a minute. We've got some news from Kyle Shanahan now post-game. Seeing the three rookies on the football field creating havoc, and a near safety with the grounding penalty of Kyler Murray. And CJ West got there first, couldn't quite corral him, and he's trying to get out of there. And Alfred Collins is ready for him. Mykel Williams is ready for him. And Mykel Williams just all around played a really good game and has just been phenomenal defending the run. We talked about some stats when he's on the field and not, with how good that 49ers defense has been stopping the run. And look, these guys are all big boys. They were not drafted because they are, quick little pass rushers, right? They were drafted because of their size, their power, their ability to stop the run. And they're all developing at a different pace, getting a different amount of snaps, but really a good sign to see all of them contributing. And it was really cool to see them all contribute on one really massive play in this football game.
Definitely, man. I mean, just all the rookies, they're stepping up. And that was the one thing I had a big question about, right? Like, okay, if you have to depend on 4, 5, 6 rookies to make plays consistently for you, like, okay, they're probably going to take their lumps early in the season, and you're going to have to count on the 49ers offense to carry them. And before you even could get started, you lose your quarterback, you lose George Kittle, you got other guys banged up, there's no Jawan Jennings. You're thinking, well, how is this version of the offense going to be able to carry this young defense? And the defense said, you know what? Like, no, we got this, Croc. We got this. And they've done a terrific job. I mean, seeing guys flying around, you mentioned all the rookies, but D Winters, I mean, just sideline to sideline, just pure speed, hitting guys, flying around. It's been awesome to watch just the how he's ascending in his year 3 right now. And somebody mentioned it. They're like, talking about a contract year coming up. He keeps playing like this, 49ers going to have another issue on their hands because they're going to have to figure out a way to pay this guy. Good coverage play early on in the game as well. So he's been all around terrific, at least from the eye test. But Upton Stout, man, this is a guy who had a tough outing against the Saints, and it was just, really good passes that were caught on him, but he was doing a terrific job of contesting them. And he had a great play, 3rd down, right after, 2-minute warning, and you got to have it, right? Like, you don't break this up, you lose the football game. It's that simple. And he gave the 49ers an opportunity to win, like the rookie, and not just him by himself, but all of the young guys who are contributing early in the season. It's one of those things where I wouldn't have bet money on it, but I'm definitely glad it's working out however the 49ers envisioned it.
Yeah, and Stout's a big one too, because he was someone that was immediately under fire, and opposing offenses are like, well, welcome to the NFL, rookie. You're going to be in the nickel. It is difficult to cover in this league, and we're going to attack you quite often in the first few weeks of the season. And you could tell body language wise, it wasn't too much for him, even though it was off and on, and he made some plays, gave up some others, some penalties, and it's awesome to see the young guys fight through. And I think it's a huge credit for how well the 49ers are coached to see guys like Stout and all those defensive linemen that I mentioned earlier, and a guy like Connor Colby, who's able to jump in his 2nd NFL game and now his 3rd game in his first start, and hold his head above water for a 7th round guy. It's just not easy. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen throughout this Kyle Shanahan era. Now, they lost a lot of coaches, and it got a little bit weird with the defensive coordinator for a couple of years there. But this team has always, I think, done a really good job just in the coaching and development department. And I think that's why they've got so many homegrown stars on the football team, because they're so good at coaching these guys. And so I think it's really one of the things that even if they've messed some things up as far as the draft goes, which also is kind of on the coaches, like getting their own guys in. I think the coaches are better coaches than they are scouts a lot of times for the 49ers, but they've really done a good job of coaching guys up and being able to put players, and even young players, in position to perform well. And usually when you have this many young guys, we're talking about 4 rookie starters. Usually that's not a winning combination. You got Siegel, you got Stout, you got Williams, you got both CJ West and Alfred Collins playing a fairly big role on one side of the ball. You got Connor Colby starting on the other side of the ball. You have just a mishmash of veteran wide receivers to go with it, and you're on your backup quarterback, and they're still out here winning football games, Croc.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the guys that I just mentioned with D Winters, Richard in the chat makes it kind of a great point here. He says, "Isn't Greenlaw on injured reserve for Denver? Made the right choice going with Winters." I will say, I don't think the 49ers chose Winters. I don't think it was one of those scenarios because the 49ers did go. They flew to Texas to try to get Drake Greenlaw and offered him a very competitive contract, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the story is maybe they even offered him more to stay.
More.
Yeah.
Right. So they tried to get him. And I think by then his heart was just set on, I'm going elsewhere. I'm going to Denver. I love that they love me right away. You guys are playing games. Now you want to offer these money, but I've already committed to them. And I say by default, yeah, the 49ers made the right choice, the choice that they were maybe forced into, but, just trusting, and I guess for them, trust in the development. And that is hard. You lose guys like Drake Greenlaw. I think he meant so much to the 49ers defense, as well as guys like Hufanga. But he's gone, and now you're younger at the linebacker position. And Winters looks like he's trending in the right direction. It kind of falling in line with what we've seen from the 49ers with being able to identify linebackers that fit what they like to do and play a certain brand of football. He's definitely doing that right now. Now, he doesn't have to be the main guy. What would he look like if Fred Warner wasn't out there? I don't know, right? But playing alongside Fred Warner, this guy looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily they knew Winters was going to be this, and I think Winters has been a pleasant surprise for them because they also drafted a third-round linebacker who a lot of people thought in the draft that was, higher than he was expected to go because they wanted that style of player, and Winters ended up holding off the rookie and actually taking a huge step here in year 3, and we saw him really seeing the rookie third-round linebacker in Nick Martin quite yet, so that'll be interesting to watch how he develops as well, which I expect to do. I expect him to look not that far off what we're seeing from Winters too. So Niners feeling really good about where they're at now at the linebacker spot, especially with Robert Saleh back and just kind of, I don't know, just calling the right plays at the right time and has the right motivation for these guys. And it's pretty phenomenal to see what the 49ers are doing. And as been pointed out in the chat numerous times so far already in this episode, Croc, is they're just now going to start getting some reinforcements back here. Week 4, week 5, week 6. And so Niners are only going to get better from here unless something catastrophic happens injury-wise. Speaking of one of those things that could be catastrophic, somewhat good news post-game now from Kyle Shanahan on the health of Nick Bosa's knee. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, for me, it was the Willie Mays style over-the-shoulder catch, maybe off his face, but it went in his hands. Sticky Ricky Pearsall making numerous catches in this game. The only receiver that was really making a lot of plays, and at one point, 4 catches in a row on one really important drive for the San Francisco 49ers. So Ricky Pearsall, he is the player that moved the game forward for me in this one for the San Francisco 49ers when they weren't getting anything going on offense all day long. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And this episode is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. The NFL season, it's upon us. And FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff in week 3, week 4, whenever it is, with a can't-miss offer. Get involved in Sunday night, the Monday Nighter if you want, because right now new customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you want to do player props, the weekly lines that you can find those weekly 49ers lines all the way through week 18 already up at FanDuel, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in the live action as the event unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little energy to your Sundays. So get ready. Are you ready? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right. So we do have an update from 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan on Nick Bosa. And it's looking like, I think the big thing is that it's probably not an ACL. So the 49ers did initial tests of Bosa's ACL. Those tests were negative, which is a good thing. So not ACL. But so far they don't really know. There's going to be MRIs and further testing. And so we're going to have to wait until, tomorrow and we'll have some more news potentially about the MRI results and find out exactly what's going on with Nick Bosa. But as of now, and it could be still a severe injury, as of now, it does not look like a torn ACL, but Kyle Shanahan did say they can't rule anything out. So the first hurdle, I think that's, you wipe your brow and you take a deep breath and you're thankful for that, because it's never good when one of your best players and the guy that I highlight is maybe the most important player on the 49ers this year, walks off the field early in a game this early in the season. And they've already lost too many pieces early in the season. That might be the one that really would set them much further back. Although they went out there and they won a football game without Nick Bosa. So maybe it doesn't matter, Croc. Maybe they're so well coached it doesn't matter who's out there on the football field. I'd still rather have Nick Bosa out there.
I think it definitely matters. And we saw a couple of injuries. I mean, Nick Bosa walking off the field, I think we feel more confident or more optimistic about kind of where he's at, as opposed to like James Conner. I saw that injury. They said, hey, we'll only show you this injury one time because it looked that bad. So prayers up to James Conner. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery, but that was an injury that looked like he may not, and I don't want to, speculate, but it looks like he may not be back this season. I think that's a huge blow to the offense of the Arizona Cardinals. But as it pertains to the 49ers and Nick Bosa, hopefully it's something that he can come back from. I did, they showed the shot of him walking off the field and he's like doing these little, eyes, and then he gives like a thumbs down. And I didn't care for seeing him do the thumbs down. I thought at first when he was doing this or whatever he was doing, I'm like, okay, maybe that's a positive signal to somebody. Then he did the thumbs down. And I'm like, yeah. I can't ever think of a time where thumbs down is good. So that made me worry a little bit, especially since we didn't see him come back.
That's usually a big one when you see the body language of the player. If they're like slamming the ground, he kind of threw his helmet down and, obviously thumbs down. I think that's universal that, that's bad news. Man. So yeah, hoping it's not something that's ACL or as bad that could potentially be season ending for Nick Bosa. That would be a tough one to overcome because he's been just phenomenal the first few weeks of the season. And you talk about James Conner, and that's kind of what reminded me about Christian McCaffrey in the middle of this game. And, some fans are probably annoyed by me because I'm a broken record when it comes to the attrition level at running back. And it's just the reality of the position. But man, when the 49ers couldn't move the football, they just keep handing it to Christian McCaffrey. And he's got 17 carries for only 52 yards. So 3.1 yards per carry in the Cards. And every team this year has done a really good job of limiting the running back that is Christian McCaffrey. But his ability to move out of the backfield and make catches, I think, has been massive for the 49ers so far. 10 more catches in this one, by far leads. He's got twice as many He had twice as many, I think, coming in. Now that Ricky Pearsall had 8, it's not going to be quite double the rest of the team. But 10 more catches for Christian McCaffrey for 88 yards. Did have a 20-yarder there. And really, it's just been a lot of Christian McCaffrey, kind of not a lot of running game for the 49ers. Get him out of the backfield a little bit and chip away and get down the field. And in this one, Ricky Pearsall helped him out a little bit as he did last week as well. So that's kind of been the 49ers offense, and it's been a struggle. And you never really go into a game that's like, so this is what's crazy to me, Croc. So this is a game where they didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter, yet Mac Jones had 41 passing attempts and Kyler Murray had 35 passing attempts. So not only were both teams ineffective running the football, they were also forced to throw because they couldn't run the ball, and they still weren't that effective because they still just kept giving the ball back to the other team who did the same thing, couldn't run, tried to throw, wasn't great. And then finally at the end, the dam broke a little bit and you saw a couple drives down the football field. And I particularly liked the way that Mac Jones was really decisive in that 2-minute drill, because that came after the interception, after a safety, and things could have really fallen apart. And he came out on that 2-minute drive, the game-winning drive, and it was just like ball out instantly. Boom, quick seam to Tongas. Boom, quick out of the backfield. You go with a little a little screen to Christian McCaffrey to finish the job and get all the way down there and make sure it's not a long field goal attempt for Eddy Piniero. That was a massive final drive. And I just liked how quick the ball was coming out and how decisive Mac Jones was on that drive, even though you don't love the safety. You don't love the interception. The safety not on Mac Jones, by the way. You got to give credit to Calais Campbell, the old guy doing I'm sure you've had these moments, Croc, because you've got teenage sons. And I'm sure you've had that moment in the driveway where they think they can beat dad and they can out-hoop dad. And you say, okay. And you tie on your sneakers and you go outside and you give them a little bit of work, right, in the driveway. And I think that's what it felt like with Calais Campbell on that one. The team's backed up and he got Pooney on that one. Pooney had no choice but to try to hold on. Still ended up being a safety because of the holding in the end zone on Pooney. But I like seeing the old guys thrive a little bit, Croc. The old guy in me likes seeing the old guys win sometimes.
Did you say I have teenage boys?
You have adult boys, don't you?
Adult boys, yeah.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Can they beat that?
Now I just try to make sure I'm just stronger than them at this point.
But you just back them down then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure I'm on the weights because it's a little more difficult now. No, Mac Jones, who I almost did the Jimmy Garoppolo thing where you give him a game ball because of the last thing that you saw as opposed to an entire game. I thought overall he was fairly efficient and made some big throws, but the 49ers just struggled in the red zone to punch the ball in there. I don't know if it were timely blitzes by the opposing defenses. I don't know if it's the defenses doing more of a bend but don't break type of deal there. I don't know if it was the run game just not hitting exactly the way you would like it to, but both teams, I felt like once they got into that red zone, they kind of struggled, and I think there was a lack of points there. Passing wise, I felt like both quarterbacks were fairly efficient. Like I didn't see a game where I'm watching two quarterbacks thinking like, man, they're playing some bad football. But Mac Jones did have the badly timed interception. Felt a little bit like Jimmy Garoppolo in that situation. And then we saw the safety, but then he gave you the full Jimmy Garoppolo experience with leading a game-winning drive. And unlike Jake Moody against the Cleveland Browns a couple of years ago, Piniero kicked the ball through. So shout out to all of those guys kind of making it work. But I was impressed with Mac Jones and the composure that he showed late in that game down the stretch. I mean, I just watched him and he's like, all right, hold on. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, here we go. Boom. And he was decisive. He knew exactly where he wanted to go. He didn't force anything. Matter of fact, one of the throws on that first drive, he kind of had to dirt it because it was well covered. But instead of trying to force a throw to a receiver that's tightly covered with a guy underneath and over him, he's like, nah, I'm just going to kind of throw it in the area of him so we don't get intentional grounding. So that was a smart play. I thought there were some really good things down the stretch, but obviously the interception wasn't great, especially the timing of it, but he pulled the Jimmy Garoppolo experience and was able to overcome that late interception.
You get DeMarcus Robinson back next week. His suspension's now up. And so, we'll see what kind of roster moves the 49ers make. And hopefully you aren't so reliant on Christian McCaffrey because, again, it's like, that's not sustainable for him to have 30 touches a game. And they were able to limit his touches a little bit last week, but weeks 1 and 3, they were not able to do that. And especially when you see how difficult every yard is for the 49ers running game, you need something else on offense. And man, for the 49ers to come out of this 3-0 after the first 3 weeks with all the injuries they've had and some reinforcements on the way, you feel pretty good about sitting atop the NFC West right now, the only beaten in the division, although everyone else is 2-1. So they're pretty close behind the San Francisco 49ers still. And of course, a lot to happen here in the division and in the 2025 season. And of course, Croc and I are here for you every single day, breaking it down. So make sure you are subscribed up on YouTube and anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. And Croc and I back tomorrow, right here, Locked On 49ers.